a Renaissance man who is passionate about his work. He has extensive experience in emerging technology to help the aging and people with disability. And when he was the European Director of Human-Centric Solution, he led an award-winning project in Bolzano, Italy, which essentially was the first Internet of Caring Things IBM did that helped aging in place using ambient assisted living. He lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts now, and he is the global creative, digital, and technical advocate of IBM accessibility and IBM research. And if you ever want to hear the funniest, most bizarre Airbnb stories, he's your man. He lived in Airbnb for like 2 months as he was moving his family here.
I'm very experienced.
One right after the other.
Thank you, Susann.
You're welcome.
Susann Keohane.
Yes.
Yes. So, I could play the mandolin and make the pizza, so just make forward the Italian introduction from Susann. I am proud to be on the stage with Susann. She's a master inventor. She belongs to the Academy of Technology of IBM. For who knows IBM, these are two pretty serious achievements for some of us. But to have a master inventor inside IBM, you need some certain packets. I think the plateau is around 25 to start. Guess how many Susann has? I tell you because they will stay here all day long. 120 counting. which means that she is not only someone who has a lot of experience in dealing with subjects where the cognitive side of data has a meaning, so are meaningful for the life of people. Also envisions a lot of dimensions related to what we're talking about today. She has one of the most amazing patents she has is about a system to get your mail back once you send it, which is absolutely, I think, important, thinking about how many times we were thinking, and it's just one of, let me say, the funniest between a long story of research. So, just to say that I'm so proud to be here with her.
Me too. It's great.
So, go ahead.
So, we're going to start off, and you're going to say, why is two IBMers? Maybe you're not, but in my head, you guys are thinking, why are two IBMers talking about caring, the Internet of Caring Things? Well, IBM really lives at the intersection of technology and business. We really don't put a lot of consumer products on the market. And this enables us, this intersection enables us to essentially change the way the world works. You know, we can be essential to our clients and we can be essential to society, and we have a deep-rooted core value in diversity. So in 1914, we hired the first person with a disability. Nick and I work in IBM Accessibility. We help technology be accessible to people with disabilities. And again, core value, in 1914, we were hiring people with disabilities. 1935, our founder, Thomas Watson, said, equal pay, equal work. 1935, I mean, granted, you know, obviously our society has a little problem with inequality in pay, but, you know, it was a core value for us and it was in our policies. In 1937, this is crazy to me, an executive sailed, I can't believe it, we sailed to China and established IBM in Shanghai. And this is where cultural diversity, you know, accepting people of different cultures and understanding how different societies work became important. We're a global company. In 1943, we had our, 1943, we promoted a woman to vice president, and now we have our CEO, that's a woman. It's fantastic, there's not many in Fortune 500 companies. 1953, Thomas Watson Jr. said, we will not discriminate when we hire. And in 1984, that policy was extended to sexual orientation. So again, you know, why are two IBMs here? It's part of our DNA. We care and we want to develop solutions that are challenging, that are complex problems to solve in society. We want to have an impact. And so it's part of our core value, and that's why we're here today to talk about the Internet of Caring Things. Want to add to that at all?
No, that's
So again, we come from an accessibility background. In age, you acquire disabilities, cognitive and physical disabilities. So you can understand our background in accessibility is really valuable for the type of solutions we can create. I work on the W3 Cognitive and Learning Task Force. So the W3, WCAG is a standard that you can follow in order to be compliant to make the web accessible to people with disabilities. And we're looking to expand upon that standard to help people with cognitive disabilities. And if you think of the elderly, this is going to become really important as people acquire these, issues of cognition as they age. But what's interesting is compliance isn't necessarily the key, because you can make something compliant and it not be usable. So this is where we started to really look at user experience. And then mobile devices came about, mainstreamed accessibility. All of a sudden, everyone could relate to a situational disability. You're trying to watch a video in a noisy room or talk to someone and you can't quite hear them. Are you in your car and you want to interact with your phone? You shouldn't. Obviously, you might cause a car wreck. So this is where all of a sudden personalization and context awareness, our mobile devices really brought that to the forefront. And now we're at the human experience. As we change, as our abilities change, as we start to develop these really personal connection to our devices, it becomes a human experience. It's that human interaction that is key. I mean, how many people sleep by their phone? Right? It's crazy. I mean, how many people that are 90 sleep by their phone? I don't have the answer to that. But, if you think about technology and technology adoption, our children are growing up as digital natives. My father was born in 1932. His favorite device is the television. I couldn't even, right now, I don't even have cable. On my phone or my iPad. So technology changes, and that's one of the things as we age, technology can be a barrier. You could be outpaced by technology. Anything about human experience?
Yeah, I think that you realize that one of the subjects we're going to today is technology, yes, but first of all, humans, because we, as an experience that Susann just described before, are strongly focusing on how people is interacting with technology, because you can have the best technology ever, but if people doesn't use it or doesn't have a way to interact with technology in a meaningful way for them, it's completely useless. We could say that, I guess. Let me bring you through our description of what we mean with the internet of the current day, starting from two main trends. One is smart cities, the other one is the demographic revolution. Sorry.
Did you set our timer?
Yeah. You can see it here.
I can just.
Yeah, let's go there.
Perfect.
I guess that probably we all have an image about the smart cities, which is quite printed in our mind. We are associating the word smart to something that is clean, efficient, a sort of a dream of the perfect world where we're going to go through the technologies. And I guess we'll just put some images about a perception of what a smart city is. This could be a smart city, green, everything is flowing smoothly, data are passing by, and probably the future is going in this direction, or a hyper-connected cities where everything is known, and for sure we're going in this direction. For sure we're creating a lot of data and information that are coming from sources that were not known a couple of years ago and are just popping up quite quickly. But there is something that I think it's important to remember, because it's a trend to one of the smart cities, but we also have what is happening today. And when we're talking about caring, there's some situations like this one. They are not far away from here, are all over the world. As you know, we're a global company, so we're not talking only about the United States, which is obviously one of our main focus as a business, but we're just looking at things happening all over the world. And we're talking about situations in which the caring society is not as much as considered as it should be. And you know how many issues, for example, we have in this country about the politics of caring. So you have situations like this one that are happening now. A lot of places that used to take care of people that are going in this situation. So you perceive something behind these pictures. For example, loneliness in this picture. Or, for example, abandonment. So what we want to say today that life is not a rendering when we think about smart cities. So you can transform smart cities also starting from this situation. So don't put in your mind one prefab image about the smart cities that have to be only that way. We can improve the life of people and transform the cities starting from what is happening around us. I always used to say that each one of you, each one of us can do something getting out from that door about the people we care about. Well, we'll go through that. Okay, let me give the stage back to Susann.
Here we go. I love this quote. This kind of goes back to that digital native. Converting a world built by and for the young to one that supports and engages a population that lives 100 years and beyond. I mean, we really are dawning on the age of the centenarian. It's kind of crazy to think about that. When you think about, this is kind of a morbid topic, and I'll tell you that, because a lot of the stories people tell you are, some of them are very positive about very active elders, and some of them are very sad about them. People dealing with their parents as they get older. But when you think of the age you may die, it's morbid. A lot of people might say, 90 would be great. I mean, okay, so what if it's 110? Like, what if it's 20 years past what you thought? What if you retire at 65 and you still have another 40 years of life? I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about this, but this is really how the population demographic is changing. So are you guys familiar with these pyramids? What they show you is the distribution of age across the world population. So this is the world, this isn't one country. And you can just Google world pyramids and you can find these online. So the first one is from 1950, and it's more of a triangular shape, meaning there are a lot of youth and few elders. So you have a lot of people that can care for the elderly. In 2010, it's kind of squeezing in a little bit. Not so severe. In 2050, it's starting to look like a skyscraper. And what's crazy is 2050, all these people are born today. I mean, for the elderly, that is, they're alive today. So this isn't some futuristic modeling of what the world looks like. A lot of these people are very well alive today. And what's even more fascinating is when you look at it per country. So this is the world. If you look at China, because of their policies, one-child policy, they're becoming inverted. And this is where it starts to become a societal crisis. In Japan, 1 in every 4 adults are over, 1 in every 4 people, are over 65. That means there are fewer people working than that are retired. And this is where you start to stretch the national budgets. And if you look at the US today, 3% of our GDP is spent on the elderly. In 5 years, that's going to double to 6%. This is going to disrupt key industries, this demographic shift. It's going to affect healthcare. It's going to affect finance. Again, you plan to retire and you think you have enough money to get you through your golden years. That's going to change. I know this is kind of depressing. I don't mean to depress everyone, but it just is what it is. And one of the things that we realize at IBM is, we're an enterprise company, and our clients, consumers, their customers are the elderly. And we really feel that this demographic shift is going to have profound implications for the type of offerings they create, how they go to market, and how they engage in this new elder aging demographic. Oh, and there's one thing that I really like is the stat number 3. And this kind of goes in with the Internet of Caring things. A lot of people right now, I hear stories of concern. My mom, my dad left the stove on again. Came home and there's gas in the house, and we turn it off. It's really alarming. I don't think they should be living at home alone. What if they fall? No one's there. We have the neighbor check in every day. Because we live in a world where you're not necessarily living next door to your parents. We're across way half the country, at least from mine. And so a lot of decisions are based on worry, concern, safety. But there's not analytics or data that's supporting these decisions. So for every year you can keep person in their home saves a substantial amount of wealth. Think about it. A lot of people will have their home paid off. If they can stay in their home, their expenses are pretty, taxes, and they normally get a reduction on property tax, and they have their daily living. The moment they move to assisted living facility, that could be $3,000 plus a year. 24-hour nursing care, someone told me $19,000. I mean, so for every elder, for every year you can keep them in their home is anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000. That's huge. That's really huge wealth preservation, and this is kind of, I think, important to know, because it's not just looking at a person's health. It's their wealth, it's their health, it's their quality of life. And 90% of elders surveyed by AARP want to remain in their home. They don't want to be a burden to society. They don't want to be a burden to their family. They want to be active. They feel they have a lifetime of knowledge they want to share. So how do we get them engaged in our community and keep them engaged? And it goes back, we have a digital world right now that is kind of meant for the young. Technology might have outpaced a lot of people. So how do we make technology more human in that they can interact? And so that's kind of what we're talking about here today. Oh God, another depressing chart. So sorry. It's kind of a sad state of affairs. We're all aged, right? How many is aging in this room right now? Everyone! Obviously physical disabilities make sense. We did an informal survey yesterday in the IBM Cottages studio. What are you most worried about with aging?
Yeah.
And so one of them was outpaced technology. We gave them 5 answers. Acquire a disability, family forgetting about you, and being outpaced by technology. The one that was by far off the charts? Dementia. People are afraid of cognitive decline. With a good reason. 47 million people worldwide had dementia right now, with 10 million new cases each year. So if you think about a population that is growing older, inevitably you're going to hit some of these very human characteristics of growing old. But the key is, elders are not, you can't just lump them in one big homogeneous bucket. I just read about this woman who, 92, ran a marathon, last summer in San Diego. I think she might have been the oldest one to run a marathon, or one of the oldest. 92. How many think you could run a marathon right now? Especially not after South by Southwest. My liver is killing me. 92 and ran a marathon. So, you think about it, we're all not going to age the same. We all have different lifestyles. We have different genetics. We're different people. We're all unique. That's how I feel after South by. So, you have to really think about, solutions that really are this personalized. It has to be these millions of markets of one. We're all going to be different. We're all going to acquire different illnesses. We're going to have different lives. And that's really key here too. It's not one bucket fits all for everyone.
Yeah, so let's come to the point for this morning. And I guess that if every one of you remember or studied ever in his life, the prince from Machiavelli, basically everything is already there. So once we solved our main issues of life, then we're searching for something else. But there are some basic issues that are bringing us back to some unchanging fundamental needs. And these are these needs. And I think that we are asking the technology to somehow fulfill these needs. That's what is happening right now, because we're expecting so much from the greatest researchers in the world, the greatest minds that are working on something. And let me say, there's a lot of huge issues that yet have to be solved. So we've done a lot, but there's a lot that have to be done. Probably we're just right now in the moment in which we can see an acceleration of what's going to happen for the last, I guess, 20 years, because now we are really understanding the power of some data that were hidden before. And I guess Susann will talk about this to you in a short time. But this is one of the points. So let's go back to foundational. So physical health, mental well-being, safety and security, connection to the loved one. Isn't this thing that we all are aiming for? So this brings us back to the point of what we mean with IOCT. We just, let's say, grab some sources. There's quite a literature which is popping up. So this is a merge of how we envision this thing, and some sources, just like you will find some sources on the web as also trending on it. But definition.
You ready to read it? Okay. A network of connected objects, devices, and sensors in cognitive systems with a clear mission to actively care for people, their physical and mental well-being, homes, loved ones.
Yeah, not totally.
When applied to the aging, to allow family members, doctors, and caregivers to proactively monitor the health and well-being of the world's aging population. And I would dare say health, wealth, and well-being.
Yeah, I think you start understanding how do you see the thing. It's the perspective is not only to have some nice app on your phone, which by the way would be great, but probably would be something that will solve a lot of problems, and there are already a lot of applications that can help or enable a lot of functions. But it's something that it's connecting an ecosystem of actors. So start not thinking as the aging as a single human somewhere in the world, but be part of the system, of a network. And I guess that one of the point is, at last, all the smart objects we're talking about is an object that puts the people first, so put the person ahead of the technology. Because again, as we said before, you can have the best technology there, then you need a driver license to use that car, okay? So you need experience to use that technology. And sometimes you don't have the experience, you don't want to have the experience. As Susann said before about her father, and one of the most used device inside one home, it's still television. And it's still why a lot of advertising, it's still going through television. Because TV is one of the system of interaction we all will do, whatever technology, whatever the internet. So if you think about some targets, you have to go back to some foundations and think about how you can deliver technology, or how you can retrieve data and information from that kind of technologies that are already in place. Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it goes back to what we were saying before. Sometimes the wheel is already there, you just have to put it in the right place.
The aging trend. Why now? So why the Internet of Caring things now? Well, I think the aging trend I described earlier, hopefully you guys got it. And the fact that in this room, if we're lucky, we will all grow older. So it's here upon us. Healthcare is great. We're living better lives. We understand the human body better. We can solve a lot of issues that might have been detrimental in the past. People are surviving, and living longer. So again, right now it's like we have a world that's designed for the young, and millennials has always been on the top of everyone's mind. How do we engage the millennials? Well, it's going to be how do we engage the elders? It's going to be new business models. It's like Uber and Lyft are going to have to change. I mean, if you think of Lyft now, has anyone ever been disoriented by the direction and route a Lyft driver has taken? Oh my gosh, why are you going south when I want to go north? I don't understand. Where are you taking me? They get routed all around. So if you think of something like a Lyft, if you said an elder, so they don't lose their independence, just they can take Lyft, right? They get in the Lyft and it starts taking them this crazy route. They might get disoriented, they might get scared. I mean, it's happened to me, but if you add cognitive disability on top of that, it might more likely happen to them. So maybe that device says, we will take you the same route no matter what. They might not have a time urgency. Just take them by, the school that they know, or the grocery store that they go to, or where they get their hair done, or their friend's house. Take them the route that they're used to going and don't deviate, even if it's better, faster, whatever, to keep them around. So my point is, technology is going to have to start looking at these different use cases. You can use the same technology, but you're going to have to apply a different use case, a different empathy map, and you're going to have to understand the core impacts of aging. such as cognitive disabilities, physical disabilities, and how technology can start to support this, essentially more vulnerable population of ours.
Yeah, and for example, talking about second volunteer, there are a lot of trends all over the world. I think Finland, maybe Lithuania, were one of the first countries all over the world to have high-speed internet, 100 megabit, free for everyone. Their policies were changing. I don't know if any one of you have been to Venice recently. In 2009, you were on the boat in Canal Grande or the Vaporetto, and you can connect to the Wi-Fi. And guess what the paradigm of the vice major at that time was, Nicola Palmarini. He said, okay guys, we can't deliver all the services using the traditional interfaces, so a building where you go there to ask for a certificate. If we're delivering the services through the web, we have to consider the same paradigm, so we have to deliver for the citizens all the Wi-Fi coverage for free. And it's what's happening. If you're a resident in Venice, you can connect to a specific network that is delivered for free to all the citizens, just like as a policy to the citizens themselves, so that they can access to the services. That is how it's going. And it was quite slow Wi-Fi. It's just becoming sort of a very high-speed type of connection, and it's becoming cheaper and cheaper. But you have to consider it when you're designing services and solutions for the aging population. There's a lot of places in which in which people is dealing without any connectivity. So, for example, if you're thinking about how can you collect information from people which is aging, you sometimes have to wonder, okay, do they have a DSL connectivity in this phone? Because most of the time they do not. And let me say again, going back to the point, we can transform cities and manage these markers, but we have to consider the actual situation. We can't wait that much more. Yes, it's true. We have every day 10,000 people is becoming 65. Sorry, it's just entering the baby. Entering in the baby boom aging rate. Every day 10,000. So all these people will be, more trained, more used to some technology, so we can think farther situation. But how many people is already in that aging frame which needs services today? So again, I think that's one of the nice trends is that the connectivity is becoming cheaper and easier, and we have to jump on this trend to transform the experience of people.
Yeah, so when you think of we're on the third bullet, the rising adoption of cloud. So the cloud is great, right? You can have all these third-party apps, and you can kind of pull in the user data and perform these algorithms and deliver services and cognitive services that are tailored to the individual. And it's a lot easier to do today with that cloud and a more common infrastructure. But the key here, I think, is you're not going to want all your data in the cloud. I mean, people are concerned about privacy, and we haven't really quite got there, but if you are going to monitor an elder in their home, and Nick's going to talk to you what they did in Balsano, and you start to learn an individual's life patterns, their daily living activities, to keep them safe, to know if they had dinner, or they forgot to have dinner, or forgot to take their medicine. You're essentially monitoring and tracking their abilities. And do you want that all in the internet, all in the cloud? Ideally, IBM's cloud is very secure, but a lot of this information is going to have to be data on the edge. It's going to be analytics on the edge. And so, you start to look at chip design and chip processing and these home hubs, and it's going to be processed there, and only relevant insights will be sent up to the cloud. So you're not going to expose all of who you are in that environment. There has to be levels of data access, where it can be, hopefully not breached, but keep it secure. So the adoption of the cloud is really interesting, but I think this data on the edge or analytics on the edge is even going to be more interesting. And us having these home hubs, I mean, you saw Amazon Echo, like the idea of having these technology in our home that will help and track us and interact with us. A lot of that information might be processed right there and not sent to the cloud is, I guess, my key.
Yeah, and another trend, I guess, you notice how much now it's much more precise the way you can be localized by GPS or whatever kind of technologies. And by the way, we're working on how to improve the localization of someone inside closed spaces, which is still an issue, but I think it's just becoming the next trend about how we can be helped to reach location on one side, but to know where someone is on the other side. So think about dementia, how Susann was mentioning before, and people with Alzheimer's, for example, has a lot of issues obviously related to they don't know where they are. They don't recognize what's happening around them. So think how much is important to know exactly where someone is. And then the other trend is the crowdfunding evolution. I think you all in this wave about crowdsourcing information and knowledge and crowdfund new projects. Kickstarter is all these wonderful platforms allows to the rise of ideas that once in time were, demanded to big corporations like ours. Now the innovation is coming from basically everywhere. So even small ideas can be founded and generate a lot of new ways in which you can do in a smart way the process of retrieving those information. Because still, one of the issues we have on the table is to find the right information at the right time and give a meaning to those information. So it's a matter not only to analyze this information as we will go through now, but also how you collect this information in a proper way that is meaningful for that individual in that situation.
And so, we're entering into this cognitive era. Our CEO says IBM is a cognitive business. And we are taking digital business enhanced by digital intelligence. And the key here is it's enabling us to have a new business model where we can tackle things at scale and size and complexity. And in this type of problem, an Internet of Caring things, supporting the elderly, it's a really complex problem. There's a lot of players. You have healthcare providers, you have all the people that service them and all the people that want to service them. If an elder can't get to the grocery store, Instacart would love to send them groceries and take care of that for them. So this idea of this cognitive, knowing what someone needs when they need it, and tapping into the infrastructure, the internet of these caring things, people, objects, services, is where we're at now. The capability is there. Now we have to just design it, test it, build it, implement it, and get it out there for all to use.
So we were just trying to play, and this is a sort of an umbrella, the Internet of the Caring things. But then you can, split it in a lot of different dimensions. We just identified 5 of them.
And I honestly think there was a presentation on the Internet of Security things. Did anyone go to that? You'll start seeing these presentations.
Yes. And by the way, this is a split made by, Trendwatching as a corporation which is monitoring the trends in components related to the technology. Okay, so you see some of these dimensions. So let us go through some of the examples so that you were just going step by step.
And these are like our IBM examples because we were for IBM. So Internet of Healthy Things. So IBM is partnering with Medtronics, and Medtronics does a lot of like pacemakers and a lot of medical devices. So using cognitive technology with their medical devices and their health data, we're working with them to develop a new generation of diabetes management. And you're going to start to see a lot more health apps pop up. You already probably use Fitbits and other things now. So it's all about keeping you healthy, keeping you active. And so this is essentially the Internet of Healthy Things. And then we start to think about how could they be used in an elder's life? Would the elder use the phone or adapt to a phone? Or how would the experience need to change in order for them to tap into these Internet of Healthy Things?
Well, what about security? This is an example. This is not mainframe IBM. It's one of the, 10 to 15 new devices that popped up in the last 12 months about how much you can monitor your home remotely. Basically, you can now open and lock your home from wherever you are using, obviously, smart technology. So it's your smartphone connected to the network. It's a service that allows to connect and then retrieve and have a lot of information. What is interesting, it lets you interact with the people that it's getting to your home. So you're knowing a lot more about what's happening wherever you are. So who's ringing to your doorbell, who's getting there, when, how, why, maybe why, if your son or daughter was alone at home, so you can know a lot more about what's going on in your home. But what is interesting, it's just, providing the sense that you have a sort of a understanding about the environment, which typically before was only bounded when you were there. And if you think this in the dimension of the caring things, you think how much it could be important if you are dealing with your father or mother, which is alone somewhere in Wyoming or in Milano, just like it's happening for my family now. And to have some info so that you can create a sort of a network of support for these people. And think about how many examples of close support you can create. I guess that one of the issues related to the caring thing is how much networking you can build up around this concept. So how much involving a network of relations is linked to this concept. So take the word care also from this dimension.
I love this chart, Internet of Mindfulness. So there's a researcher in IBM, his name is Guillermo Sici, and he works with some other researchers, and not just IBM, but academia. And he was published in the Atlantic Journal. And this is his algorithm. So if you told someone a story, and this is the words that were used, that first story told you, those are the words used. Each one of those dots is a word. So the pattern of the words used. And then you asked someone to repeat the story. So someone that is older and that's starting to suffer from dementia, immediately looks pretty good, right? They have a lot of the same patterns. 5 minutes later, look at how much information is gone. And what he found in his research is that a 3-minute conversation, just us talking, this is a little scripted, but we were just talking about what I dreamt about or what I ate yesterday. A 3-minute conversation can start to assess a person's cognitive state. And in a really high percent accuracy, he could tell you if you're going to have a psychotic episode. He's a psychiatrist. He's a computational neuroscience. And then he started to apply his algorithm to Parkinson's disease, to Alzheimer's, and just the words we use, so it's language independent, just the words we use and how often we loop back to certain words can start to assess a person's cognitive state. It's kind of fascinating. And if anyone has elders in their life, how many have been on these repeat conversations, like we just talked about that, you just said that, yeah, right? So it's almost this window into the mind, and that technology and that research exists now. I think it's fascinating. Scary, fascinating. Scary, but fascinating. Oh, this is me too. So, cognitive toys. Has anyone seen this dinosaur that's powered by Watson? Okay, so it's speech-enabled with natural language processing. It's connected to the internet, and it's powered by Watson, and it allows for a personalized experience for each child as they're interacting with it. It's really cool, and there was a crowdsourced funding for it, and you're supposed to get it before it goes extinct.
No, I think one.
But I'm gonna get to it.
Spielberg is doing the movie.
Oh, is it? So go to the next chart. So IBM has.
No, one second. So let me say one more thing. I don't know if you have seen the video. I guess someone lifted up the hand about this thing. What is pretty interesting is, for example, when it interacts with a child, the child says, "Tell me a story" to the dinosaur, and the dinosaur answers, "Okay, why don't we build a story together?" Which is a way, instead of telling, how to say cappuccino also in English. I don't remember the story about, well, okay, whatever Greek story, okay? Translate cappuccino also. And instead of telling, whatever story that is already recorded somewhere, it just start asking questions to the child so that they can understand how is his personality, knowledge, information, background, and start playing and learning. That's one of the issues related to the cognitive.
So on a different level, the humanoid. So IBM is working with SoftBank's Pepper, and you'll start to see like robots as concierge. I know that's a fear of robots, but they can. If you think of an aging world and there's going to be less workers, you're going to have to start looking at technology differently. So you can actually engage with Pepper at the IBM Cognitive Studio.
Yeah, go there. I think you can see it live. And I guess
so
it's
this
quite
again. So you put an elder perspective, an elder use case on this. Is an elder going to go play with a green dinosaur? Maybe. I mean, is the elder going to be freaked out by a pepper in their home? I don't know. You have to do some of these studies, ethnographic studies, to decide if that's true or not. But click on the next one. But maybe they want a companion. Maybe it's something a little more friendly. Maybe it's a little puppy. My mom loves her dog. But at some point, caring for a pet becomes more challenging. So maybe it's a little robotic pet that helps monitor and is there. And they can say, hey, call so-and-so. It's kind of like the Echo, but maybe it's Amazon Echo. But, maybe it's something a little bit different, something a little more, we haven't even envisioned it yet.
Well, we have an idea.
The boots.
Oh yeah, sure. We just brought this thing to show you that basically every object today could be ignited with some technologies. So from a dinosaur, which is a toy, up to a robot, up to a puppet that could be fused with technology. Or why not adding a sensor to a zipper? That's just an example. We're working on this thing about fall detection. And it's based about experience that what we were talking before. That all of us has patterns, and we will talk about them a little later. But for example, that aging used to wear these kind of things, or all of us used to do some actions whenever we come back home or we are in our environment to then repeat that situation more and more and more. And then when you start knowing and understanding how this people is behaving, so the pattern of that behavior, then you can predict a lot of things happening. And this is just an example.
So I think the boot is a great example because what if they kick off their shoe, or what if they don't wear the boot? It's just one data point. And this is where it's a complex problem. What is the confidence that the elder fell with the sensor in the boot? Maybe not so good. But what if you have sound detection in the home and you heard a crash? Or what if you heard someone go, help? You're listening for that kind of stuff. You need this corroborated evidence. And you have to build up the confidence in the insight you're about to deliver before your smarter home calls 911. And that's another interesting thing. At the kind of the studio when we're doing our informal survey, we said, what technology do you think will support you as you age? And we had, I can't remember what the options were. I'll tell you the winner: smarter homes. That's what people thought. My home will be there. My home will keep me safe. My home will adapt to me as I age. So this is key. It's not one data point. It's going to take, and this is where, again, it's complex. You're going to have to need lots of data points to build these type of life advisors to keep someone safe.
But now that we're becoming quite experienced in the idea of the Internet of Things, and now we're carrying things. One lesson we learned on the field, which is mandatory as a lesson, is to understand what kind of experience and behavior people does, what people do, just to understand what are the type of technologies that can be applied to the scenario so that are meaningful. So maybe sometimes it's not useful to put a camera just to detect someone that if it's walking in the room or not for a lot of issues. Maybe you can start thinking about the puppet, as we said before, or the boot, or something else, and matching different sources of data to give to this data a sort of, you said it, corroborate?
Yeah, corroborated evidence.
Very nice word. I didn't have
So
it.
the future.
Oh yeah, the future.
I want you guys to hear about Bolsano. You have great charts already.
No worries. Okay, go.
No, this is you.
Oh yeah, sure. What's happening? That we're expecting, as we said before, that the industry of care, the care concept is just becoming something closer to my needs, that it's providing information, again, to a network of people, which is not maybe your caregivers. Could be someone in the middle between you and a caregiving, or expectation of care related to one word that is crucial for us, which is dignity. Every time we think about someone who's aging, we always come to the same conclusion that the best place where to age is your home, because nobody wants to be moved with, a sort of a sheltered house or whatever, because you are losing one piece of your story, which is yourself, which is your affection, which is the things that happen in your life, and you want to be and keep them with you. So the idea of care, it's not the hospital. The idea of care is to to feel as good as you can, the best as you can, where you grow up.
And so the unstructured data, you hear about that a lot. And it goes back to this daily patterns. So like who slept by their phone. So imagine like the last time you touched your phone and you fell asleep, you wake up, it's right there, you touch your phone and look at the time. I mean, your phone just knows when you slept. Essentially, it kind of knows your pattern. So there are all of these data, all this interaction that we have with devices, with technology, with people that this unstructured data starts to really tell a story. I read somewhere about someone that did a Facebook app that collected when the last time you logged off Facebook, when the last time you logged in, and he started to realize he was finding out his sleep patterns of his friend. Facebook asked him, don't do that. don't do that. We don't want, but essentially we're given a lot of our personal behaviors away, like whether we acknowledge it or not, people can learn about us. And
obviously bring us to one of the concerns I guess everyone is in the room, us included, about the privacy. And we think obviously it's an issue. Obviously it has to deal with our safe zone, where we think are in our comfort zone about our information, about what we want to tell someone else about ourselves. So it's obviously related to a threshold about how much you want to feel safe and how much you want to save about the privacy. But there is an issue that it's related to the object themselves. There's smart ways in which you can get this information without intruding privacy for someone. For example, understanding behaviors from data. They are not collecting your whatever personal action, but are giving information at a high level. I'll talk about it later with a real example, so you see what we're talking about. But the point is that as we progress in this industry, we are also understanding new ways that are respectful for the rights of people.
And new business models. So IBM last year, like I said, Japan is a super aged country, and their Japan Post touches 85% of Japanese population each day. So they changed their business model and they said, could my postman check on my loved one? So it's a service that people in Japan can do where the postman makes sure they knock and make sure someone answers and sends a little alert like, yep, they answered, something that simple. And it's just something that it's a whole new business. I mean, whoever thought a postman would check in on someone? But we're going to see different business models in the future. The Japan Post one, if you haven't read about it, you should. It's really interesting.
Now, I mean, we don't have much time to play, but our idea of play is basically this one. Here are just examples on how we're going about defining the Internet of something things. That goes back to one of the points as we put this an umbrella in the beginning. The idea of caring means a lot of different things, as we said before. And you can deep dive, and probably in the future we will foresee something happening in this direction. So then each dimension will be hyper-specialized with hyper-specific tools, with hyper-designed data set, with hyper-designed models. But we think that who knows about choreography, just like dancers. So one of the jobs that we are doing is like the choreographers. You have the line dancers, you have the prima ballerina, to say the first dancers or whatever. Okay, but then you have to put down a show that it's able to have all these elements working together in harmony, and that's exactly what's going on.
And in the Congo studio, actually our colleagues out here that worked with extreme athlete that bicycles 3,000 miles. So it's all about the internet of this person and how to keep them safe as they do this high adventure, risk-taking sport.
Yeah, but I guess it goes back to one of the points that Susann highlighted before, and let me say this, probably it's one of the most important takeout today for you. It's not one data. It's a concert of data in which you have this orchestra which is playing in front of you, and finally you have to understand the melody, what's going on from all these different sources. Now, let me go back to a real example. We, I think, don't have time to run the video, so you can find a video about the experience we've done in this city.
Just type IBM City of Balsana.
Yes, right. It's basically just walk the talk. What we talked about it's an example of how we apply it in a real situation. Bolzano is a small city north of Italy. It's close to the Austrian border and has this peculiarity. Within one of the most aging countries, Japan, Italy, then Bolzano, it's even aging faster than Japan. So it's a small community inside of Italy. You have another one in Norway. It's close to the city of Stavanger that is going that fast because they had a huge immigration in the 60s for the oil industry. Now the oil industry is over out there, so you have these aging people that moved there, migrants there, and immigrated there, sorry, and the sons and daughters of this aging population left because there was no job anymore. So you have this incredible amount of aging people which is basically alone. Some sons and daughters in New York or somewhere else to find a job, okay? And it's what's happening basically in real life every day. And Bolzano represents one of these enclave inside the world. What is interesting is the questions we just put down with the CTO. Basically, we're just asking us if technology forecasting what is happening, as we described before, about the aging trends, can somehow help them to run the services for the aging population. Now, let me go to 2 points. I just put these pictures to show what we did out there, and it's me under a sink inside the home of one of these aging. So I just want to highlight again one of the factors that for us is crucial. Life is not a rendering. Things are this way. So look at the blocks on the right. That is what we found when we tried to install, put some of those sensors that Susann was mentioning before to then retrieve this data. And this is what's happening. Or my colleague Lara, surrounded by dolls. And isn't it?
So they're in the home of the elder.
Yes,
creating a smarter home with technology.
I guess, yes, every one of you, if goes to some homes today, will find a situation like this one, don't you? And it's how it's happening. So how can you infuse technology in this kind of situations? Because this is what happening today. Tomorrow we'll have the smart cities that we designed it before, okay? And we're already there in a lot of cities in the world, okay? I'm not saying that we're not already there. A lot of cities are there. But let's say that 5% of the world is that way, 10%. Think about the 90% of the world, about economic situation and the aging trend, okay? And the last point, it's life is not a rendering. This is the real people we work with in the city of Bolzano. Top left, you see Zita, which is our, let's say, testimonial. We just worked with more than 40 people that were 75 plus years old. But look around her, that's the whole ecosystem. Bottom to her, it's her daughter. On the central column, you see the caregivers, which is the formal caregivers, the first one on the top. Then you have the community of health assistants, so doctors that would work with understanding the information coming from her life. But look at the one in the bottom of the central column. This is the informal caregiver. So someone who was just living in a neighborhood close to Zita, who said, okay, I can network with you to get in case of emergency because Zita's daughter was living far away. And then look at the right, the policymakers. So someone who's getting this information. So there is a whole organization that is collecting this data. Think about how many people is involved. Think about the word we said before about orchestration or choreography. You have to understand what's happening in Zita's home, and then choreography or
coordinate.
Thank you. Coordinate. The data through this flow. Which means that, for example, let me tell you just one thing about Zita. Zita, she was in a great shape, 75, her husband had Alzheimer's. So she was stuck in her home because she had to take care about her husband. And she was a super active woman. She wanted to teach. She had classes for sewing and creating dresses for theater. And she was stuck there. So we were just finding a way of how we can collect information and then help her to have an independent life and a dignity of life in her home. So this is one example of the flow of the information that was sifted. You see Zita, you see some black dots up there that means the sensor we put down and information coming from these sensors. Let me explain you what was happening in her home and how we can understand the behavior of people from very basic data. Again, there is a lot of information there. Again, it's what Susann was saying before about getting the meaning from this information through the cognitive, I would say, ear. This is carbon dioxide. You know, carbon dioxide is something you don't smell, you don't feel. You basically, each one of you has one sensor like this one in their home, okay? And we put these sensors in the kitchen, and look what is the classical trend of the Zeta's life. You have a peak 8 o'clock in the morning, you have a peak 12 o'clock, you have a peak 4 o'clock, you have a peak 8 p.m. What's happening? Zeta is waking up, going to do some coffee in the morning, probably, having a lunch at 12, probably, having a snack at 4 p.m., probably, having a dinner, probably. It's probably, if you do it one day, it becomes a sort of a pattern if you just monitor it for 365 days. And you know that if Zeta doesn't wake up one day at 8 o'clock, wait, maybe something's wrong.
Well, what if you detected she fell the day before, and then the next day she didn't eat breakfast, she missed her afternoon snack?
And
You start to think, what does that mean?
And systems are getting smarter to tell you, hey, this thing happened 2 times in the last 6 months. So that time you didn't have to worry because then she showed up at 12 o'clock with her regular patterns. But then it didn't happen again. So you can have a picture about life behavior, understanding how people is behaving, following this kind of pattern. But you have a very important second information. This first one is very important. Liveness of people is one of the crucial information that costs $1 billion in maintaining and understanding if someone is alive or not. The second information you got, it's about she's having regular meals. 2 first causes you are not having regular meals. First, depression. Second, you're developing throat cancer. If you just go to look at the statistics, and if someone is not having regular meals because probably has a kind of depression, probably is developing throat cancer. And if you monitor in a large scale, you can understand a lot about it. Then if you add some bootstrapping, and for example, we're working with companies that are putting this kind of sensor, guess about appliances. So you have the front fire, you have the back fires. Typically smaller, bigger. Bigger, you do pasta. Smaller, you prepare the soup, so the tomato, whatever. The smallest one, you do the coffee, okay? If you just go about how people are behaving in some areas of the world, you can bootstrap information about how the kind of front or back fire people
What kind of meals they're making for themselves.
Exactly. Let me tell you a last example. Another sensor we put in the home is carbon monoxide. The more oxygen we consume, the more people is in one room. So we could easily detect how many of you were before you entered the room or after, just understanding it from the consumption of oxygen. That tells you something about the privacy I was mentioning before. So that's something that we don't know who were in this room, but we know that, for example, Zeta had social relation. Why? Because someone gets there at a certain point during the day. So we know that probably she doesn't have to be the first to be contacted by the social caregivers because she's having someone who's caring about her. So I will go tomorrow. And think about if you just put priorities of services to people, how much you can go farther in this thing. To say what? That from this information we can create an ecosystem of interaction, that is what it's expressed here. So you see how many information were delivered to the different kind of people to have an action that will follow that event.
And the other thing, just one more thing about that chart.
Sorry.
When you think about adoption of technology, a CO2 sensor is very non-intrusive. You know, a lot of people are like, I put cameras in my mom's house. Cameras really intrusive. I mean, talk to anyone with Google Glasses when they were popular? Are you filming me? You know, it makes you uncomfortable. But something like a CO2 sensor, look how much data you can derive. It's amazing. It's amazing how technology is today. And something for an elder, something that simple, non-intrusive, can keep them safe.
Yes, just to end. Again, go ahead and look to the video. 2 last things. The first one on the left, there, as we said before, a lot of startups are popping up, not only in the technology, the data collection, but also in providing the service. The care service is a new way. This is Honor, which is basically matching. It's a sort of a task rabbit for people who are searching a caregiver, okay? And on the other side, you see a number, and it's just one of the number we put about what's happening in the business arena behind what we just talked about here today. It's the number of $1 billion that should have be claimed about informal
You think of
caregivers
that
today.
neighbor checking in on your
Right.
loved one. That's their time. I mean, in a weird way, in Hollywood, it was really interesting. It's $1 billion opportunity here. We can help our clients capture and provide services to these elders that will keep them safe. So it has this positive impact to society, and someone has to still pay for it. You know, if you're an enterprise, you have to derive value, and there's a lot of value to be driven out of this.
And preserve belief. Thank you very much.
Yeah.